All right, everybody. Let's get started. It is Friday, September 12th, year of our Lord 2025. And today's video is going to be two things. Number one, it's going to be a little bit of a primer if you're new to it, to dealing with the evil that's available to you on the internet. This is not, I'm not talking about the normal stuff like the porn and that kind of stuff, but dark web and all that. I'm talking about regular, everyday people that maybe you knew from high school, maybe in your neighborhood, that are saying all kinds of vile things right now in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. Maybe some of you are new to it. I know my wife is, to some degree, and we had a conversation last night about that, and I explained the lay of the land. So we're going to do that. But before we do that, we are going to talk about Michaela Olson from the Babylon Bee. So let's begin. All right, everybody, let's do this. So yeah, I saw listen, I don't pay attention to Michaela over here. You know, Michaela, and to be fair, I try my best not to go in on women too much. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to, blast women into outer space. But Michaela, I'm going to make an exception because Michaela over here is very popular, and what he said was that we'll get into it. But there's this tendency for people, I mentioned yesterday about people thinking of the Bible in slogans, right? And that's definitely rampant. It's everywhere. You see it everywhere, especially in high tense, stressful situations like the one that we're in this week. But it's all the time. It's all the time. The teaching is taught in slogans. And this is why, this is not a big deal. So if you disagree with me on this, I'm okay with that. But this is why I actually prefer, instead of going like one verse at a time, like some pastors like to do, they'll preach about one or two verses at a time. I actually prefer preaching that's bigger chunks at a time. Because it avoids the sloganizing of Christianity much better and much easier. I'm not saying that everybody that goes verse by verse does this, but the temptation is there. When you go verse by verse and you do one verse or two verses a sermon, the temptation to sloganize the Bible is always there. So I'm not saying if you do this that you're automatically one of these guys that turns the Bible into a book of quotes, but it's tempting. It's risky if you do it that way, in my opinion. But Michaela's definitely one of these people. But not only do we have that issue, but then we also have the people that look at pop culture and works of fiction, some of them good works of fiction, as if they are the end-all, be-all. They describe the human condition in such a real way, and that we need to look to them and we can quote them as if it has anything to do with real life. I saw this earlier this week, about like To Kill a Mockingbird and Of Mice and Men, and these are good books. I mean, I'm not against To Kill a Mockingbird, but at the end of the day, To Kill a Mockingbird is fiction, and it's got a certain agenda, a certain worldview that it's pushing. And if you read these fiction books and you don't understand that, you can get all twisted up. And Michaela isn't even that smart, so he chooses Star Wars of all things, Star Wars, and it's shocking. And I listen. I love Star Wars. I do. Ever since I was a little kid, I love Star Wars before it was cool to love Star Wars. You know, when you paid a price at high school for liking Star Wars. That's when I liked Star Wars, and I was okay with it. I mean, I was fine, I was one of those geeks and freaks and geeks. Except the only difference between them and me is that I actually had some athletic prowess. But anyway, I love Star Wars. When I was outside when I was little, and now when I'm an adult playing with my kids in the snow, we were on Hoth. We were on Hoth defending the Rebel base, obviously. I even as an adult, I play tabletop Star Wars games. Not as much as I used to, but I do, and I have them still, and when my kids are old enough, we'll probably do some battles on the table as well. We love Star Wars. But it's not reality! It doesn't explain reality. These people are insane. So here we have Siddharth Eka talking about how, you can't call for vengeance. You can't call for vengeance on Charlie Kirk's murderers because hate drives justice and terrorist species. And then Michaela says, tolerance of evil is wrong. Okay, so he gets the kudos there. There, he got the kudos. We remember this strategy where you say something that's obviously true, but it's also kind of vague, right? It's kind of vague. Yeah, tolerance of evil is wrong. Well, what does he mean by that? Well, we don't know, but it's the right thing, so we give him a little props there. Hats off to you, Michaela. You got it. Tolerance of evil is wrong. You get a cookie for that one. And then he says, but so is hate and vengeance. So is hate and vengeance. Well, then he take all the cookies you gave him, you got to take them back. Because it's not correct that hate and vengeance is wrong. Hate and vengeance can be wrong, but it's not correct in the same way that tolerance of evil is wrong, because that's always true. Tolerance of evil is always wrong. Hate and vengeance, not as always wrong. So he gets no points for this. But here's the trick. This is what I wanted to talk about. That's all esoteric stuff, right? And we've got Catherine Whitfield here. And she says, well, when you said this, Anakin Skywalker's story came to mind. Vader happened when hate and vengeance overtook him. So hate and vengeance overtook Anakin, and he turned into Darth Vader, and we just can't allow that to happen to us. We can't turn into Darth Vader. We can't. And then Scooter here, whatever his name is, anime picture, obviously. It also reads like Yoda's quote on the dark side. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. And so Michaela loved it because Michaela thinks in slogans and he thinks in pop culture movie references. That's the extent of Michaela's thinking on these kinds of issues. And he goes, yep, Anakin Skywalker is the perfect example of what will happen to us if we give in to vengeance. If we give in to vengeance. This guy, Alan here, I don't know him, but he gets it. He says, hey, I just wrote a story where the hero gives into hatred, gets vengeance, and then goes back to normal and everything is great afterwards. Please consider this outcome as well. He gets it. He gets it. So George Lucas writes a story where fear leads to hate leads to anger, anger leads to suffering, whatever. And now that's true. Now that's true. Anakin Skywalker, that's reality now. And you know that vengeance and hate, that's what it leads to. It leads to suffering, obviously. Obviously. And the thing is, this might resonate with people because we've been fed a steady diet in our pews of finding the gospel in the movies, finding the gospel in the movie Liar Liar. That's the diet we've been fed. And so this might resonate with you, but it's not correct. It's not correct. And so I responded, of course, and I said, guys, I know you're mad, but have you even seen Star Wars? Have you even seen Star Wars? Because if you've seen Star Wars, you know that you can't get too mad, because if you get too mad, then you go to vengeance, then you go to suffering. I mean, it's the Jedi way. The Jedi have spoken. That's it. The Jedi have spoken. And so, you know, I wrote, I love Star Wars as much as the next guy, probably more. I mean, listen, you might not know that about me, but I'm a bit of a geek. It's as simple as that. I like Star Wars as much as the next guy, but it's just a fantasy movie. Obviously, it's a fantasy. And so Michaela, he thinks he got me. He thinks he got me because obviously I'm not cultured enough to know that fiction, you can learn lessons from fiction. You know what I mean? I was asleep in kindergarten when we did the Aesop's Fables. And so Michaela responds, it's one that can teach us valuable lesson on giving into a root of bitterness and vengeance. You, a Christian, should know this. Yes, as a Christian, I should know to learn the lesson of Anakin Skywalker. The tragedy of Anakin Skywalker. Absolutely preposterous. Absolutely preposterous. So let's find my response here, because this is what you really need to understand. How do I find my response? I hate Twitter. Show probable spam. Was I probable spam? I had to have responded to this. Hold on. All right, here we go. I didn't respond to it. I reposted it. And so, obviously, there is no lesson from Anakin Skywalker. That's insane. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. That's not how it works. It doesn't work that way. Now, hate can lead to suffering, Vengeance can lead to suffering. Anger can lead to suffering. This is all true. Fear can lead to suffering. But it's not a progression like that. We don't have to rid ourselves from these emotions. That's not how it works. This is not reality. It can't teach us anything. The Jedi, they're like Eastern mystics. They're like Buddhists. They're like Taoists. That's what they're like. They're like the people that think you need to clear yourself from all these emotions and attachments and all this stuff. That's how they live their lives. They were like Buddhists. Buddhism is not a description of reality. I'm sorry to tell you. And I'm sorry to break your brain that finding the gospel in Star Wars doesn't actually work. Sure, there's themes of sacrifice and this and that. Of course there's themes. But the worldview of Star Wars is not reality. The Jedi are wrong. They're wrong. And there's so many ways that they're wrong. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and worry you with all the nerddom that I happen to have in my brain, but the common one that everybody uses, only a Sith deals in absolutes. Everybody knows that this is insane. Everybody knows that it's actually an absolute statement, and therefore, obviously, Obi-Wan is an idiot. Everybody knows that that's not correct, that evil deals in absolutes, but good, of course, is so nuanced and all this kind of stuff. Everybody knows that's not right. There's no lesson to learn from the Jedi. They don't have the correct worldview. And it goes beyond the wizardry that they do, obviously. Because you could have a story that has a good worldview that, also has, wizards and magic and all this kind of stuff. I'm not saying that. Obviously, it's fiction. We all get how fiction works, but the worldview presented by Star Wars is a different system than reality. Michaela, it's time to grow up. It's time to grow up. Sure, To Kill a Mockingbird was a good movie. Star Wars, some of them are good movies. Yeah, I agree. They're good movies. But this is not where we get our wisdom from. This is not where we get our wisdom from. This is not a view of reality that is correct. We have to grow up. We have to grow up. Michaela, you're a child up here. You think like a child. There's no lesson from Anakin Skywalker that comports with reality. Anakin's fear doesn't automatically lead to hate and to suffering and to anger and to vengeance. Vengeance is not the issue. Hate is not the issue. Fear is not the issue. In reality, it's about what you fear. It's about what you're angry about. It's about what you hate. Obviously. This is obvious. We gotta grow up. I don't know how to make these people grow up. I don't think I can. I can't make these people grow up. But I can inoculate you to this level of thinking. Look, I know you were trained like I was trained. I remember this, and I remember I almost had an aneurysm. I almost had an aneurysm. And it was one of these gospel-centered guys that thought the gospel's got to be center. It's got to be central. And they're like, I can find the gospel in anything. I kid you not. I can find the gospel in anything. You can show me the back. I swear to you, I'm not lying. This is what really happened. He said, I can find the gospel on the back of a cereal box. I was friends with this guy. I was friends with this guy. And so I was nice to him. I wasn't harsh. But what was he talking about? What are you talking about? The gospel on the back of a cereal box. That's what we're doing? That's how we're dealing with, that's how we're learning and teaching? Oh my goodness. It's time to grow up. It's time to grow up. If you're one of these guys out there that's like, oh yes, fear. You must not fear. You must not take vengeance. You must. And look, there's a root of truth in it. Guys, we know it's the Bible verse. Don't take vengeance. Don't avenge yourself, beloved. We have to deal with that. That's true. It's in the Bible. But you have to be able to be old enough to put aside the lesson of Anakin Skywalker. For goodness sake, he's not real. Not only is he not real, the story is inverted. It's inverted, the story. The Jedi were not good. In fact, that's part of the story. That they're not good. The Jedi aren't that good. They're all messed up. The morality in Star Wars is often inverted, and you have to realize that. Look, it's a story of good and evil. I understand that Darth Vader wasn't a good guy. Everybody gets it. But the Jedi weren't good either. And the whole point of the morality of Star Wars, the wisdom of Master Yoda, a green Muppet. This guy's learning his wisdom from a goblin. He's a goblin. Fear leads to suffering. Oh wow! Well, I better not be afraid of anything. Oh my goodness! The anger can be very good. Obviously, be angry. Do not sin. Hate can be good. Hate can be good. Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? There's a time for war. There's a time for peace. There's a time for love. There's a time for hate. That's what the Bible says. That's the wisdom. Get your wisdom from Solomon. Don't get it from Master Yoda, a puppet, a goblin, a puppet of a goblin, presenting Eastern mysticism as the path. That's the path of the Jedi. Like, it's not correct. It feels so stupid saying this, but there's legions of Michaelas out there who actually think that the story of Anakin Skywalker can teach us something. It can't. It's just an entertaining story. Sure, if you let vengeance and anger and hate take over your entire existence, sure. But that's not anything. We know that. But the way it's presented in Star Wars is fear automatically leads to this, automatically leads to this, automatically leads to this, and there you go. Hate, anger, all wrong. This guy is out of his mind. This guy is out of his mind. He thinks like a child. Michaela Olsen, Babylon Bee. He thinks like a child. It's time to grow up, my friend. It's time to grow up. We can't do this. We can't do it. Look, you can enjoy Star Wars. I enjoy Star Wars. Me and my kids will play with the Legos. You know, we'll go outside with the Nerf guns. I'm a stormtrooper. You know, they're trying to stop me. That's the thing about me. Whenever I play, Star Wars tabletop games, obviously I'm always the Imperials. I mean, obviously, so cool. Those stormtrooper outfits are so cool. Yeah, that's a great game. Oh man, Star Wars Legion, battles on the table, X-wing. Even Armada, you know, the capital starships, man. The Star Destroyers are so cool. I mean, let's just face it. But we can't let it take over the way we think, the way we understand the world. This is not correct. You have to grow up. Michaela has to grow up at some point. And look, and then there's the literature, like To Kill a Mockingbird, Of Mice and Men. You know, oh, poor guy, he was retarded and he killed the woman and then they had to kill him. Poor guy. Dude, retarded or not, you kill someone, that's it. That's what happens. I'm sorry, but being retarded is not an excuse. You killed a woman accidentally. I'm sorry, you gotta go. Because you know what? You're too retarded to not do it again. You don't understand what you're doing. It's sad. It doesn't mean we have to be happy about it, but I don't know. The worst part of that was that he killed the woman. I don't know. I mean, like, that's a little worse than the retarded guy getting executed. We're not women. I mean, this is the thing. Like women will have that kind of sympathy, right? And men have that kind of sympathy, but we know how to push it deep down inside and do what has to be done. Michaela, unfortunately, he's not equipped. He's not ready. He has no categories to do what must be done. It's as simple as that. You got to grow up. You got to grow up. And I have sympathy for Michaela because, as far as I know, he's not a pastor. He was taught to be clueless. And he's like his teachers. He's clueless like his teachers. He was taught that the Bible is a book of inspiring quotes. He was taught those quotes in a very particular way that really de-emphasized, it's time. There's a time to hate. De-emphasized, do I not hate you? Hate those who hate you, O Lord. De-emphasized some of the more brutal verses in the Bible. He knows they're there, and most evangelical leaders, they know they're there, but they de-emphasize them. Sometimes overtly, sometimes they just do it. But you got to grow up. It's time for big boy pants. That's the thing. It's time for big boy pants. Because we've got to figure out, and it's hard. This is hard. It's not quite as simple as Star Wars. Star Wars is a movie for children. So they make it as simple as they can make it. Anakin, he got angry, and anger can lead to all these bad things. But kids sometimes they don't understand the nuance that but there's a righteous rage, right? There's a righteous anger. Like I described yesterday. I quoted a movie yesterday. I'm not getting my morality from Blood Diamond, obviously. But that father, when he and the actor does a great job. I mean, the guy looks like a freaking deranged gorilla, right? He looks like at this one scene, and this is one scene where something breaks in him, and he just goes medieval on the guy who stole his child and made him a child soldier. He just goes brutal, like old school. I don't even remember exactly everything he did, but I'll never forget the look in his face. And this is the thing, like, when you grow up, you understand that rage, that white hot rage that father experienced is not always bad. It can be bad, but it's not always bad. It's not always evil. It's not always going to forever change the trajectory of your life and eventually you become Darth Vader. Obviously. But children, they don't have the capacity. I tell my kids this all the time about the way they speak. And I'll ban certain words, not curse words, but aggressive words. I'll ban their usage of certain words that I know full well in my mind that when they reach a certain age, they're no longer banned from using that word because they'll know the nuanced ways that you can deploy these words in appropriate times versus inappropriate times. But when he's 6, he doesn't know that yet. He hasn't practiced enough yet. So I just ban it. It's just, it's a totalitarian dictatorship in my house. I ban it. And that's what Star Wars is presenting. It's presenting a childish worldview. But at some point, Michaela here looks like an adult. I don't know anything about him, and I don't care to know anything about him. He looks like an adult, and it's time to grow up. The Bible is not a book of slogans. You can't treat it like a book of slogans. You've got to treat it like an adult at some point. At some point in your life, you've got to grow up and understand that hate, but do not sin. Be angry, but do not sin. Be angry, but do not sin. The sloganizers know it's there. They might even quote it. But they quote it in a way that what it essentially means is never be angry. It's not safe. Never be angry. And they don't prepare you for what the life of an adult is like as a Christian. Never curse. You don't ever use a curse word. You don't use curse words. There's times for curse words, my friends. I'm here to tell you. Hey, don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. I'm not your pastor. But I'm here to tell you that there's appropriate times for those curse words that you should never use. That's kind of a contradiction, right? Curse words that you should never use. Words that I don't use in my life. I don't use certain words in my life. You probably could assume what they are. But I can imagine situations where I would, and it would be totally appropriate, and I would not be sorry about it. I would not. I've thought about, honestly, there's been times in my life where I've cursed a lot, before I was a Christian. But in general, even before I was a Christian, I didn't really curse that much. It just wasn't part of my DNA. I grew up in a Christian home, and I just never really did it. I wasn't one of these casual cursers. You know what I mean? But even then, there'd be times where I'd, be in an altercation. I've been in a few fights in my life, And those are times where curse words can actually stop violence. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it can. There's appropriate times for stuff like that. There's appropriate times for violence. We all understand that. We don't all understand that. I take it back. We don't all understand that because Michaela Olson was probably influenced by guys like John Piper. Again, people were upset that I said I respect him. I do respect him in some ways. And then in other ways, I think he's awful. I think he's awful. It's time to grow up. Look, the best time to grow up was like years ago. I mean, honestly, years ago, you should have grown up. You seem, I don't know how old you are, but you're old enough that I can honestly say years ago, you should have grown up years ago. You didn't. It's time to grow up now. Now is the time to grow up. You've got to find a way to grow up. You have to. I think I've said my piece. Man, this has already gone 25 minutes, and I was going to talk about. So we'll just quickly talk about my wife. My wife, she's a beautiful, sensitive woman. You know what I mean? Very, very good woman. Doesn't get involved with the riffraff side of social media too often. She likes to go into mom groups, which of course there's riffraff there too. But mom groups, recipes, homeschool groups, stuff like that. But, she and I've told her, and there have been certain times where she's gotten involved with some of the riffraff, and I told her not to do it. I banned her from the riffraff. It wasn't good for her soul. But this week, she's started to see some people on Facebook that she grew up with, and some of them are insane. She grew up in Vermont, and there's a lot of insane people in Vermont. Celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk, or if not celebrating, at least downplaying it and saying he deserved it, and he wasn't a good guy. All this kind of stuff, and it's really affected her. She's gotten angry, she's gotten sad, she's cried, and all of that, but she's also seen things that have encouraged her. People that she wasn't expecting. She thought they were crazy like the rest of them, but they aren't, and they're calling people out, and they're surprised her, and so there's a mix of good and bad, but I explained to her, and she started feeling, like maybe she was a hypocrite, because some of the leftists were saying, oh, well, where were you when this person was killed and this person was killed, and I started to explain to her that 90% of the people on the internet are just full of it. They're just doing something because they know that there are Christians out there that are easy marks, right? They can be made to feel inconsistent. They can be made to feel like they're not loving everybody. They can be made, so they use that to their advantage. They don't care about that stuff. They just want you to stop caring about Charlie Kirk. That's what's going on 90% of the time. And so you need to understand, they're always manipulating you. They're always lying. That's how it works. And so when you start to feel, and I said, look, there's nothing wrong with you feeling more about this murder of Charlie Kirk than the whatever murder they said that you should have paid attention to before, right? They always do this. This is not just a new thing with Charlie Kirk. They always do this. I told her there's nothing wrong because Charlie Kirk was one of us. And of course, it's going to affect you more. Of course, it's going to affect you more than someone that's not one of you. And that is okay. That's the way it should be. That's not to say that, if one of your enemies gets killed, that you celebrate, oh, yes, it's so great. He's killed on national TV. Oh, it's beautiful. He deserved it. Doesn't mean that. But when you feel nothing when that happens, and you feel something when this happens, that's normal. That's fine. That's okay. You don't have the capacity to care about every situation. It happens all the time. Oh, what about what's going on in Haiti? Why don't you post about what's going on in Haiti? It's like, I don't know. First of all, I don't know what's going on in Haiti. And second of all, I only have so much capacity to care about things. So, of course, I'm going to care about the things in my immediate vicinity first. And then it's going to go out, my next vicinity, my next layer. And then eventually, I just can't care anymore. I can't. Nobody can. Except for the Lord, obviously. And then I also told her that that's 90% of those people. 10% of these people are intellectually incapable of understanding the difference between killing Charlie Kirk, an innocent man, because you disagreed with him, and killing a black man wielding a knife heading towards you, and then they say, oh, you didn't have to kill him. What about the non-lethals? They can't understand the difference. They are mentally incapable. They're stupid. They have not the IQ required to understand the difference. To them, it's like, killing is killing. Killing is killing. You say you're pro-life, but you're for the death penalty. I mean, 90% of those people, they're lying to you. They just think they have an easy mark. You're a Christian. They can make you feel bad, right? Because you don't want anyone to die. You're a Christian. You're a good person. They think they have a mark. That's 90%. And then 10% of them literally cannot understand. They're too stupid to understand the difference between killing an innocent person and killing a guilty person. Killing an innocent person who never did anything to anybody and killing someone that's coming at you with a knife with a crazed look in their eye. They don't understand the difference. They're stupid. And we're going to go into one of these stupid, maybe two of these stupid people in the next video, because I am going to go to town. Oh, yes, it will be glorious. I'm going to be going to town on 2 articles from the Gospel Coalition in the Black Lives Matter time. We're going to go back. We're going to do a blast from the past, and we're going to show exactly how brain dead, probably low IQ, probably not their fault, so we're not going to get too mad at them, but brain dead people are when they talk about, situations like, oh, there's this one guy, this black guy, he was crazy. He ran at the cop, but you didn't have to kill him. And the difference between that and the dude from Minnesota who was acquitted, what was his name? Kyle Rittenhouse. I think that we're going to have a great time insulting their intelligence because they obviously are too stupid, or they're lying. We're going to have a great time blasting it into smithereens. It's going to be good, and I hope you enjoy it. But anyway, in any case, Michaela, it's time to grow up, buddy. It's time to grow up. Hope you had this. I don't know what that was. Hope you found this video helpful. God bless. Puro fuego es mi amor por